All right, hopefully everybody can see the slide. Yep, thumbs up, awesome. So I'm Peter Tassoni. I'm here with Chris Gagnon, and we'll give you an overview of the two programs of both the ABLE and the Special Needs Trust. And yeah, I know that they're recording. They live on longer than I, so you guys can review it over and over again if we do a really good job. But Chris and I are here just to give an overview. So if you get into, please ask questions, definitely. But if they get too technical, we may have to not answer as directly as you might have wanted because we can't give legal or financial advice. There's a lot of data, a lot of information out there. Both of these programs, the plan disclosure for the ABLE runs about 60 pages now. The DD Endowment with the Master Trust agreement is about 40, 50 pages. So the details are there, but we're just here to kind of give you an overview. And one of the things we've struggled with was trying to figure out in a snapshot what's the difference between these two programs, because they have a lot of similarities, but there are some nuances. And so we've kind of boiled it down to the ABLE is the disability definition's much wider. So it accounts for a lot of people that are pretty self-sufficient, people that are in the terminology would be considered competent. So they can run their own account. With the DD ETF, the Special Needs Trust for the Developmental Disabilities, and because you guys have the ARC, a lot of our clientele, a lot of our family members with developmental disabilities don't have the ability to deal with their own finances. So that's where you need a trustee, somebody to manage that money on behalf of the individual. And if you have a daddy warbucks in the family that's going to drop $1 million on your kid, or you're going to get some big settlement, the Special Needs Trust is a better vehicle because it's a big bucket. It can hold a lot more money, but the ABLE account is more for folks that are saving smaller amounts of money. So pinching your pennies versus getting a big inheritance or something like that, and differentiates between the two programs. We get the presentation's kind of split up into three sections. I'm going to do a lot of the speaking in the beginning, and then Chris and I will be trading off in the middle section. We talk about nuts and bolts, and then we'll finish up with a third section with some interesting statistics. But this is really the problem that both programs solve. So if your individual, your family member is getting some other means tested benefit program, which can include, in the old days we call it food stamps and stuff. If you get more than $2,000 in a savings account, in a banking account, stuffed underneath your mattress or something, then the potential is you're going to get kicked off your benefits. Those benefits are going to go down, or you're going to lose them altogether. And so both these programs solve that asset limitation. So any and all money in these programs, whether it's the DD Endowment or the ABLE account, is exempt. That means it's not counted, it's ignored, it's excluded. The caseworkers cannot use those dollars to factor in the individual's resource. And so therefore, whether or not they reach that limit or not. And so as a generalization, the ABLE legislation was passed by Congress 14, and Obama signed the legislation in the very end of the year. And these are modeled after the 529 college savings plan. So here in Washington State, we have got the GET plan, which is prepaid college. We also have the Dream Ahead, which is a 529 savings plan. Just kind of morphed or twisted for people with disabilities. So it's a tax advantage way for people to save money and not jeopardize those benefits. And by tax advantage, that means you're not paying taxes on the earnings, or you don't pay taxes on the money when it comes out of the account as you take your withdrawals. The DD endowment is actually statutorily in the Social Security Act, and they've been around for about 30, 40-ish years now. And these in particular are a way to build a trust vehicle, so protect the money with the walls of the trust. And particular to our program, it's only for people with developmental disabilities. And so the Developmental Disabilities Endowment Trust Fund is a special needs trust for people with developmental disabilities. But there's a nuance here. So there's first party trusts and third party trusts. And where the money comes from, the source of the money determines what type of trust. So first party means it's that person's money, the beneficiary's money. They're the first person. And when they pass, if there's still assets in the account, there will be a payback or Medicaid recovery. I think Medicaid clawback is another term that you might hear from time to time. The third party trust, that's mom and dad's money. That's the trust that we have for my son. So because it's my money, it can never be used to pay back Medicaid recovery. So it's only the beneficiaries or first party money that can be used to pay back Medicaid services. But with ABLE, we have a nuance here because ABLE is always considered a first party account, regardless of who the contributor is. And that's the magic about ABLEs. Anybody and everybody can contribute to an ABLE account. So the beneficiary, if they're working, they could be putting in wages. If the beneficiary found $20 on the sidewalk, they could deposit in their ABLE, mom, dad, aunts, uncles, family members, employers. We'll talk about a little bit more, but you can run a GoFundMe campaign essentially in ABLE, and then you could have other third-party people putting the money into the account. But same thing, when that person passes, when the beneficiary passes, any assets in the ABLE account could be used for Medicaid recovery. So as long as it's mom and dad's money in a special needs trust, it can't be used. But if it's a beneficiary's self-settled or first party trust, or if it's an ABLE account, any assets after the person passes can be used for Medicaid recovery. And it's really tough to really say which one's better. I think a little bit to help you guys maybe nuance that your choice. But the real key here is both programs protect assets. Neither program protects income. So a lot of those federal means tested benefit programs have what they call the dual benefit determination process, a dual determination. So they're going to look at how many assets the person has. So if you're over $2,000, you probably won't qualify. But they're also going to look at the income coming in. So if the person's working or there's other household contributions being made to the benefit of the individual, that will be taken into account. So these programs protect assets, but they don't protect income. And then kind of what I mentioned before, in special needs trust is that's really there for, you're using somebody to manage the money on behalf of the individual because they just don't have they're not able to do it themselves. And these trusts, just like the person, they can outlive us as parents. So this is a nice vehicle to set up. And so once you're gone, as parents are gone, and your child as an adult is still going on their lifespan, you know, this trust is here to help them with that, with the trustee helping with the management of it. Now, ABLE assumes, because of its broader range of disability, assumes the person, the beneficiary, or in ABLE speak, we call them account owners, is in charge of the funds. So they can spend the money however they want. Hopefully it's always on eligible qualified disability expenditures. And if not, there's taxes and penalties associated with it. But there's also the advantage, the opportunity that if you have guardianship or power of attorney, you as a parent or as another third-party entity, another family member potentially could manage the ABLE account on behalf of the individual. So it's not everybody is going to run their own account. It's those that if you put something in place, you can run that account on their behalf. And this is really what it gets down to. It's really going to be what is to determine one or the other. Well, Chris and I will probably be arguing that.
Yes.
Both.
I'm sorry, Peter. Could I interrupt you a second?
Please.
Your audio is breaking up now and then, and I wondered if you turned off your video, even though your screen's showing, it might help the audio come through.
Yep.
I missed some of your words and I want to hear all of them. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for letting me know.
Okay.
And so these are some of the situations we'll go through them in the rest of the slide deck that might tease out the advantages of one over the other. But in reality, for a lot of us, chances are we're going to want both accounts. You know, in my case, I have a 13-year-old with Down syndrome. And so mom and dad, we've been investing in a third-party trust on his behalf. And then once he gets into transition age, he will probably open up an ABLE account on his benefit. And so he'll better have the advantages of both accounts, and I will still have some control over that money. And then we can slide money from the trust account to the ABLE account as we move forward, and he can use it there too. And that is really going to be some of the fun stuff that we talk about. So this is about nuts and bolts. And then Chris is going to do most of the ABLE, and then I will talk about a little bit more about special needs trust. Again, just a reminder, put your questions into the chat room. We'll get to them at the end. But if, just like Beverly, if there's something that needs to be asked urgently or something you need to bring to my attention, just come off mute and let me know. So Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Gagnon. I also turned off my video just in case. I've worked with Peter for 5 years in the disability work group, mostly in the ABLE program. So that's what I'm gonna give an overview on. So for ABLE eligibility, the beneficiary must be a Washington resident and their disability must have happened before the age of 26. So they can be 90 years old and be eligible for an ABLE account as long as their disability occurred before the age of 26. And the beneficiary must either be eligible to receive SSI or SSDI due to the disability, or have a doctor's certification showing that their condition is on the list of compassionate allowances. And we do have a form on our website that folks can take to their physician and have it certified that way.
And the DD endowment's a little bit different in that you still have to be, a resident of Washington State at the time of an enrollment. And for both programs, ABLE or the DD endowment, you don't have to stay in our state. You can start your account here in the state and move out of the state and still better use either the special needs trust or the ABLE account. But with the DD endowment, you have to enroll by the age of, by the time before you turn 66. So you got to be under the age of 65. And the last one is you meet the definition of developmental disability, which is a much narrower definition of disability than what the ABLE account uses. And that determination is done by a representative of the Washington State Developmental Disabilities Administration. So I know we probably have a lot of our kids that might be on some type of waiver service or something from DDA. So somewhere in your packet, there was a determination made that essentially determined your child or the loved one of your family is eligible for DDA services. And so that's what we're looking for, is somebody from DDA making that determination, because I can't do that. So again, you can start it as a resident of Washington State, but then you can continue to use your either of these two programs if you leave the state, live with other family members or whatnot. And I think this is the funnest slide. So you're eligible to have these accounts, you have money that came into the account, but the fun part is expenditures. I mean, the whole point of these accounts is being able to spend money out of them. So we save a little bit over time, and then we can make some big splurges, or save a little bit and take a little bit out as we go. But these 10 buckets really are going to capture any type of expenditures an individual is going to need to make throughout their lifetime. So where wherever they are on their lifespan, whether we're talking a small child, a kid that's in transition program, or a young adult that's working or not working, or a middle-aged, or even a retired or elderly person, these 10 buckets are going to capture what they're going to need. But if your eyesight's really good and your screen's big enough, I guess, you'll see that 3 of those buckets have stars on them. So the upper 2 left, the basic living expenses and housing, are starred because there's a nuance between the 2 programs. With the ABLE program, you can buy basic living expenses like groceries, household supplies, and things like that. But with a special needs trust, you cannot. Because if you're collecting SSI, the caseworker will, and somebody is buying groceries either from the special needs trust or buying groceries on behalf from the household, they consider that in-kind and support. And so as a consequence, that SSI monthly cash payment will go down. So as a policy, the DD endowment, we just do not buy groceries on behalf of our beneficiaries so that we never risk someone either losing or getting their SSI suspended. The second one is housing there, and the same thing applies. If the individual's on SSI, they cannot receive rent payments from this special needs trust. Same thing applies, that they do, then the cash payment's going to go down. So as a rule, we don't provide, we don't pay for rent for those folks that are beneficiaries that are on SSI. But with the ABLE account, you can pay for rent for your individual, and there's no, you don't jeopardize any of the benefits, SSI or any of the others. And so this is where you could see that some savvy parents, some savvy folks have already realized that I can have 2 accounts. So I have a special needs account for my beneficiary. I can slide $600 over to his ABLE account, and then he or she can pay the landlord rent from their ABLE account, and there's no detriment to the SSI cash payment. The nuance though with the ABLE being able to pay rent is you have to take the money out in the same month that you pay the rent. So you can't take the money out on the 29th and 30th and then go pay the landlord on the 2nd or 3rd, because then the local housing authority, where you might have a subsidized rent or the SSI, the individual is getting SSI, they will look at that as resources that was available for the person because it crossed over a month. So what you need to do is take the money out on the 2nd, go pay the landlord on the 5th to keep it all in the same month. The last item that's got the 3 stars or asterisks below it is down on the bottom row in the middle, and those are for the funeral and burial. So with the special needs trust program, we can only pay for prepaid services, funeral, wake, burial. I guess in Washington State, we also do now composting. Those services have to be prepaid for, because when the individual passes, when the beneficiary passes, their trust fund, which is a living legal entity unto itself, also essentially ceases. The trust fund dies too. So we can't take any money out of the trust account after the person is passed to pay for these type of things. So again, special needs trusts need to prepay any of those end of life expenses. You know, buy your plot, buy your service from the memorial or cemetery place on the beforehand. But with ABLE, we have 60, 90 days after we're notified that the person has passed to close out the account, and you can still use the ABLE account to pay off any outstanding expenses that were in the works, which can include funeral, burial, and all those other end-of-life activities and expenses that may occur. So big difference is can't use your trust to pay for groceries and rent if you're collecting SSI. You cannot use the trust to pay for funeral and burial expenses after the fact, after the person has passed. You have to pre-buy those. And just has some really good enrollment rates in both programs, and I appreciate that and thank the ARC staff that are online and also the parents and others that are attending. But currently, the COVID stimulus payments have probably added a newer urgency for a lot of folks to get underneath that asset limitation. And so originally they were SSA, the Social Security Administration, said that we're not going to count these stimulus payments for the first 12 months. Well, they've amended that policy last month with an unknown end date, so that not counting has grown from 12 months to now we're looking at 18 or 24 months as they keep amending that policy, which is a good thing. So all that money that perhaps our beneficiaries started receiving isn't going to be detrimental to their SSI or other federal means tested benefits. But that was before they made that change. We're just reminding folks that, you know, you may need to start thinking about getting that money out of the checking account if the dates were coming up. Another thing that's not counted is the advanced child tax credit payments that some of our households are receiving. One, it's not counted as income, and two, it's not counted as a resource for 12 months. So in my case, I have 2 kids, so I'm getting that $500 a month payment. And so for my son with the developmental disabilities, that's not being counted during his DDA assessment, which is probably coming up next month for us. How to get the money out? So you can spend it on a lot of cool stuff, from vacations to things that improve your health or medical outcomes, or just your independence, or just your quality of life, which is fun stuff. And Chris will go over some of the ABLE stuff. Chris, you got to remember, I usually when Tamara and I are doing this, I'm on the ABLE side. So just, elbow me aside every once in a while.
Will do. Okay, so for ABLE to access your money, you can transfer your ABLE money to an ABLE prepaid card that can be used at different retailers and online, but cannot be used for cash. It's a really nice option to have. Again, it is optional. It's $1.25 a month if you choose to get it. You preload it with up to $20,000 of ABLE money. The nice thing about the debit card is that all of the transactions are automatically tracked online, so you don't have to. We suggest to folks to keep good records, but with this, it's already tracked. It's FDIC insured, and you can block specific vendors if you choose to do so. Another way to get the money out is to transfer the money to the regular bank account electronically. Because when you sign up for an ABLE account, you're going to connect your new ABLE account to your existing bank account, so you can do those transfers. You can also request a check to be mailed to the beneficiary or a vendor even. And you can call the customer service team or execute withdrawals through your user account.
And so the way I like to think about ABLE is it's much more online. So it's very similar to online banking or online investments. So very nice tool in that respect. But the DD Endowment, as a special needs trust, we are very paperwork focused. So we require that you submit disbursement requests, and that means the paperwork and the receipts showing the money that was spent on behalf of the beneficiary to the trust office, and then we process that to ensure that we're not dispersing, like for rent when the person's collecting SSI or things like that. Make sure that all those expenses are eligible disbursements. And it does take us, a week to 2 weeks, depending on the timing of when we receive the paperwork and if anything needs to be clarified about the paperwork to when the check actually goes out. But what's interesting about our program is a disbursement is kind of an event. You could have 12 different expenditures on there going to 3 different vendors. So let's say from buying some furniture to paying for some doctor's co-pays and maybe taking a vacation and then playing bowling, going bowling on Friday nights are all some of the reimbursements that we can do. And we can actually write checks to the various vendors. So maybe we could write the check to the doctor's office. We could write a check to one of the other vendors, and then we could send the rest to the primary representative or the person that's helping the beneficiary with these things. And that's depending on who's helping the individual. We call them the primary representative. The trust office can send them disbursements and then forward them to vendors thereof. The fees are structured the trust manager's role in ensuring that the money is protected and only being spent on appropriate things. And the fact that we are not online for the most part is we do charge a $600 enrollment fee at the time that you enroll into the trust. And then we do charge 1% management fee on the balance annually, with the first $75 being matched. And I'll get into the match structure in a little bit. Tax preparation fee is charged as legal entities. Each trust account is required to file an IRS tax return. And so it costs us $75 to do that with the CPA, and we charge that. If you have more than 12 events in a calendar year, the 13th disbursement will get a $12.50 processing fee. And so again, you can bundle up all those just reimbursements and disbursement requests into one event. So essentially you are able to take money out of your account once a month to pay for the various things that have happened in the meantime. If you're doing 13, 20, 30 disbursements in a calendar year, then we're going to charge you the extra processing fee to pull the file and do that work. So matches. So the program received a $5 million endowment from the state legislature when it got created in 1999. And the governing board has chosen to use that endowment to match some of the fees that we charge to sustain the program. And so the first $75 of the annual trust fee gets matched back. So if you have a balance of less than $7,500, then you would pay $75 in fees, and then we will match back the $75 back into your account. If you have an account that's over $75,000, then you're capped at $750 per year in paying user fees, and with that first $75 being matched. So you only pay $675 each year. The tax prep fee is that $75 is 100% matched. So you get, we charge you $75 to do the work, and then we match your account back with $75. With ABLE, it's a little bit different.
With ABLE, there's a $35 annual maintenance fee, and that's taken on a quarterly basis by our program manager. So you're going to want to make sure that you have, $9 in your account at any given time. If you do choose to invest your money, there is a small fee depending on what the investment is. That's charged quarterly. If you purchase anything that is not eligible, not ABLE eligible, you'll be assessed a 10% penalty, and those account earnings will be taxed. And then since this is an online program, very modern program, anything done by mail, such as statements, return checks, things like that, there's a fee with that as well.
Just the non-QDEs, one of the best examples is a non-qualified disability expenditure is going to the casino and taking your money out of your ABLE account and taking that $100 to go gamble with. So gambling is not one of those allowable activities. And so that would fall into the non-QDEs and therefore get penalties and taxes. You know, the individual could certainly go to the casino, they could buy their meal, they could pay for a show, whether it's music or a comedian and that type of things. They just can't use the able money for gambling or other, essentially think of any morally suspect activity. You probably don't want to, you don't want to be using your able dollars for. Back to you, Chris.
Okay, like I mentioned earlier, we suggest that the beneficiary or the guardian keeps receipts for all expenditures, just in case the account were ever to be audited, which we haven't heard of yet, but you never know. The prepaid card transactions, all of that is tracked online automatically. And you can go into your account at any time and look at your transactions, your statements, all of that. So it's ready at your fingertips. The balances are reported to the Social Security Administration on a monthly basis, just so that they can see that balances have not gone over $100,000 for SSI folks.
Yep. And that's SSI is the only program or benefit program that has that $100,000 exclusion. All other federal means tested benefit programs go all the way up to the cap, the ceiling, which is $500,000. It's only SSI, and that's the reason we do the reporting. So the DD endowment, we're a paper-based, so all that paperwork that you've sent in for disbursements and stuff is we keep it in our files. And should you ever need proof of that, should Social Security or DDA case manager want proof of that activity and you can no longer find it in your records, you can give us a call because we should still have it in our records. And we're keeping those records in case of an audit, which hasn't happened yet. Just like on the ABLE side, we haven't heard of any audits happening. And then for our special needs trust program, we have not had a particular individual account requested for an audit. But the Social Security and DDA do from time to time request records, which is a little bit different than an audit, but we do share records as we need to. Everything, statements, tax forms, the disbursements, the paper checks, we mailed that out, and that there's no additional fee for those type of shipping or mailings because that's all paid for by that 1% management fee that we charge. ABLE, we charge for mailings, but with the DD endowment, we do not. And then because we have worked with our regional offices for Social Security Administration, they actually review the trust about every 5 to 8 years. And with our policy of not providing any reimbursements for groceries or rent or anything, we don't need to report to Social Security. They trust us. They know that we're not going to be spending the money on anything that would jeopardize the other means tested benefit programs that the individual may be enrolled in. Contributions, there's a difference between the two programs, in particular the special needs trust. This is why we have the Daddy Warbucks image in the beginning, is unlimited annual contributions, whether that's $10 or $10 million. If you have a Daddy Warbucks with Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, just happen to be a family member and is going to drop a chunk of change on your child, your adult child. This is what a special needs trust can come in. Really big bucket, no lifetime ceilings. However, we are a program that can only take liquid assets. Essentially, we take cash, meaning that you have to make your contributions with a paper check mailed to the trust office, or you could set your financial institution to do an automatic bill pay, which just means the institution takes the money out of your bank account and then actually writes a check to the trust office and mails it to the trust office. So we can't take real estate or a person's home. We can't take cars, boats, trains, planes, personal property like jewelry, stock, actual paper or bond paper if they hold stocks or bonds. It has to come in the form of cash, in the form of a check. Please don't come to the office with a bag full of pennies. Take that to your financial institution and convert that into a check for us, because I do not want to be counting pennies for the afternoon. And one of the reasons we do that is we try not to allow any commingling of first and third party monies. You remember, third party money is mom and dad's money. And so we never want the beneficiary's money to be deposited into mom and dad's account, because that essentially could break down the walls of the trust and turn mom and dad's money into a first party trust. So we don't want that. The first party money, beneficiary monies, goes into their own self-settled account, and mom and dad's account stays open only for mom and dad's money or other third party money. So grandma and Aunt Sally, they can both be contributing into that same account with mom and dad. That's all third party money. And so they don't mix. Chris?
Okay, so ABLE, the contribution limits are much tighter. It's subject to the federal gifting limit. And so only $15,000 can be contributed to an ABLE account per year. And that's all sources combined. Unless the person is working and is eligible for able to work, they can contribute more. If the person is receiving SSI, that they can have up to $100,000 in their account. If they're not receiving SSI, that goes up to $500,000. You can do this by paper check, bill pay, automated e-gifting, debit and credit cards. And there is also a gifting page that the ABLE program has that anybody can contribute to. The account owner sets up the gifting page, shares that link with family and friends, posts to social media. It allows contributions online or by mail, but the $15,000 contribution limit still applies.
And so I'd like to use two examples to kind of illustrate the difference with the ABLE account. So let's say a person, for a couple decades, they've been putting money in, they have now a balance of $103,000 and they're on SSI. So only that first $100,000 is excluded. So now the case manager is going to see that that individual has $3,000 of countable assets, which puts them over that $2,000 limit. And so the chances are that SSI cash monthly payment is going to be reduced. So when that happens, and if the person is okay with that, they keep saving their money and they get that same account goes up to $200,000, they can go all the way up to $500,000. It's just their SSI cash payment's going to get suspended. They still keep their Medicaid. The cash payment gets suspended. They're never terminated from the SSI rolls, just the cash payments suspended. Now, I grant you that we're a decade away from probably having to deal with this problem, but that's one of the nuances of the ABLE program. The other is with the automatic rejects system. So let's say grandma wants to give Johnny a $5,000 Christmas gift or holiday gift towards the end of the calendar year. But Johnny already had $12,000 in his account. So with a $15,000 limit, $12,000 plus $5,000 is $17,000. So we're over that $15,000 limit, and the system's going to reject the full $5,000. So hopefully Grandma and Johnny are talking, and then Johnny lets her know that, well, Grandma, you can move in $3,000 in December. And then in January, the start of the new calendar year, the start of the new tax year, you could put the remaining $2,000 into my account. And that way I get the full $5,000 and I don't go over any of the annual limits. So it's a little bit of a nuance that you need to be tracking that in case you have some big contributors. And this could also include settlements, Social Security back payments, court settlements or insurance settlements, or even inheritances going into ABLE. If they're at $12,000 and it's December and there's a $5,000 payment that's trying to be contributed, it's going to get rejected. So you're going to have to juggle that over the course of the calendar year in order to get that money into the ABLE account. Thanks, Chris, for letting me inject that. Back to you.
Okay, with the ABLE program, there are different ways to invest your money. You can invest in a conservative or moderate or aggressive option, or you can simply save your money. You can also save your money and also invest in one of those options. These are pre-packaged options, so you don't really have a choice as to which stocks, bonds, mutual funds, whatever. But you have a choice between conservative, moderate, aggressive, and savings.
And so with the ABLE program, we use 8 different mutual funds in different proportions to give that different return and risk ratio that Chris was talking about: conservative, moderate, aggressive. So with both these programs, when you make a contribution, you're not actually buying the stock or the bond. You're buying a share into the program. You're not going to end up actually owning the stock or the bonds. With the DD endowment, the governing board has already decided what investment vehicle that they're using. And so both programs actually use a lot of Vanguard mutual funds. And with the DD endowment they're using the Vanguard Balanced Index Fund. And so that choice has already been made. With the ABLE, you can, if you don't want to just have it all in the savings account, you can transfer some of the money into one of those investment vehicles too. I'd like to show this graph just to let folks know that for the most part, this is the DD endowment returns for the past 20 years. ABLE's only been up and running for almost 3 years now, but we got 20 years of history with the DD endowment. And so for the most part, the accounts are earning money with the investment vehicles that we have. But you can see the Great Recession in 2008, 2009 took a big dip. And you can also see the pandemic dip there in 2019, 2020. So when you choose to invest in these programs, what I'm emphasizing is you gotta acknowledge that depending on the timing of when you need to take the money out, you may realize some losses depending on what the market's doing. But for the most part, phenomenal returns. 20 years of almost just about every year being pretty positive is a good thing. Medicaid recovery and with ABLE, Chris?
Okay, so with ABLE, it's a mandatory Medicaid recovery if the person paid into it from the time that they signed up for an ABLE account.
And the other is other states. So if this individual lived in multiple states and received Medicaid services in multiple states, those multiple states could also put their hand out to try to recover from the ABLE assets. As our families get more mobile, that might be something that occurs into the future. With the DD endowment, it depends on what type of trust. So again, that first party or the third party trusts are exempt, which we call trust ones. So if it's mom and dad's money, because it's mom and dad's money, it can't be used to pay back Medicaid recovery, even though the trust is built to benefit the beneficiary. But if it's the beneficiary self-settled trust, then yes, it is eligible and mandatory for Medicaid recovery. And these are frequently individuals that were working or individuals that received an inheritance or some type of settlement directly in their name. And so they had to open up their own accounts. And then as a consequence, it's their money, so it's eligible for Medicaid recovery. And we're going to share some statistics with you guys, starting with Able. Chris, you wanna do-
So to sign up for an Able account, it's pretty easy. You can do it at home or somewhere wherever there's a laptop or a computer. You're going to want to make sure that you've got some basic information for the beneficiary, date of birth, social number, bank account, that kind of thing, and their disability, documentation of their qualifying disability. If this person has a guardian that will be managing the Able account, the guardian will also need that same paperwork, and they'll need to upload the guardianship paperwork when they apply. So yeah, you just go on to WashingtonStateAble.com, and it takes you through some easy steps. You complete the information. It just takes you follow the prompts to complete it, and then you fund your account. You need to contribute $25 to your account to get it started. It's not a fee, it's a contribution. And at that point, you're in.
15 to 20 minutes is what I've been told that you can get enrolled in an Able program. So it's pretty slick if you've got the information that you need to get enrolled. Oh, this is you again.
Okay, so we've got just about every county covered except for what, four or five?
Yep, 5.
And obviously the I-5 corridor has the highest amount of enrollees. Spokane is pretty good as well. Sorry, I'm looking at a very small screen.
Yeah, and there at the top in Whatcom County, you see it's 118, and this is a couple months ago. And so relative to your population, Whatcom County's got a really good enrollment rate for Able accounts.
Very good.
Yep. Which is awesome. So the DD Endowment's a little bit different process. We're online, and I should say Able's online, and so you can either download the forms and fill them out by hand, and then what Chris was showing you is the process you can do an online enrollment through the various forms. But what the Special Needs Trust is, the forms are online for which you can download them and then fill them out by hand, because we need our paperwork notarized. So you need to take the paperwork into a notary to sign them and have them put their stamp on it. So we could certainly mail you a packet. You know, I talked earlier in the slide deck, there's 50, 60 pages of paperwork. We can mail that all off to you, save you some printing expenses on your home computer. If you're like me, you're not really keen into hearing the printer go back and forth, printing out the pages. And then once you get everything filled out, notarized, you join your agreement filled out with all the various identifying who final remainder beneficiaries are, some of the type of expenses that you are authorizing that you think the beneficiaries can be needing in the future. You send that all off to the trust office, and the trust manager will ensure that it's all there. And then you need at that time to submit the $600 registration fee. So it does cost to get into the Special Needs Trust Program, while Able does not have an enrollment fee at all. Then there's a vesting period for the DD endowment. So you need to make $900 in payments or contributions to the trust account in 3 years to become vested. And so that $900 can be a lump sum, that could be a second check at the time that you enroll, $600 to enroll, and then $900 or $1,000 or $10,000 or $1 million. You can write that second check to make that contribution. But you still need to wait the 3 years. And so the $900 is figured out to be $25 a month for 3 years, 36 months to get the minimum amount there. And then once you have that $900 and 3 years of time in the program, then you become vested, which means you're now eligible for all those matching funds for the fees. So that at that point, after 3 years, the $600 enrollment fee will get matched back to your account. The tax prep fees will be matched back into your account. For those that are doing estate planning and thinking more long-term, the special needs trust also can do a zero funded account. So let's say grandma plans to leave Johnny a pretty big chunk of her estate. Well, she can actually fill out the paperwork and start a zero, pay the $600 and start a zero funded account. And then once she passes and that payment is made into the trust account, then that 3-year clock will get started. And then Johnny, in a couple of years, will have a vested account eligible for matching fees. And so this is where I also like to let you guys know, if talk to your family members, if they're planning on gifting, inheriting or, money to the beneficiary, do not name the beneficiary. Name the trust account. So if that life insurance or that IRA or that retirement or that pension payment, if it's Johnny's name, then Johnny actually has the money and that turns it into a first party money. And so that's a different trust, but grandma's trust that she set up, if the uncles and aunts name the trust account, then that money will be third party money going directly to the trust, never to Johnny. And so it will preserve some of the tax advantages of having the special needs trust. And then very similar to what we saw on the heat map for ABLE, DD ETF has been around a little bit longer. We have over $1 million in assets and nearing 3,000 enrollees, active accounts. And again, King County is the big spot. That's where most of the people live in our state. The I-5 corridor is where most of the enrollments are centered around, with Spokane being another good hotspot for enrollments. As you can see, top 53, you have double and ABLE. So folks have been choosing ABLE over the special needs trust recently, but nonetheless, still strong enrollments throughout the state and Whatcom County. This slide I like to show shows how households are actually spending the money, and the ABLE is the big orange bar in the middle. And that household expenditures, we're talking about groceries and those household expenditures. And you can see that folks are using their ABLE account to do that, which is perfectly legit. And the DD endowment, we do buy some of that stuff, especially if the individual's not on SSI, but they might be more on the furniture side of things in the household, not on the grocery side of things. But again, I just want to show that, you know, some folks are using both accounts, and this is really showing where the ABLE account is exploiting or being able to use that eligible expenditure, while the special needs trust cannot. Both programs can be used together, and they're very complementary. And I know this is the local ARC chapter, but the trust manager for the DD endowment is actually the ARC of Washington State. So they are providing great service, and just you can use the two together. And these forms, this 1-pager and now an expanded 4-pager side-by-side comparison is available on the website, the DD endowment website, should you want to reference them in the future. I have taken the place of Tamara today. Chris is been doing the ABLE side, but these are definitely contacts for the trust office and for me on the ABLE program. I am the administrator for both programs. I'm the statewide administrator for both. And Chris has been helping, as she said, for 5 years immensely on a lot of the marketing and outreach. But her service is ending in the near future and she nears retirement at the end of the calendar year. So direct questions to me. But if you have a burning one in the month of September, you can certainly push it off to Chris and she'll get back to you.
I also would like to put a plug in for our videos for both programs. If you go to the websites for the programs, there's some really nice how-to videos. They're short and sweet and easy to follow.
Yep, three-minute blogs starring me, and we got some testimonies that probably run maybe 4 or 5 minutes at the most from on both programs. And the slide deck is in a presentation form is also on the website. But I know Beverly, you're recording pieces of this to use for folks up in Whatcom County, which is great. And at this point, I'm going to stop sharing, and then you can stop potentially recording,
All right.
and we can.
I'm gonna stop the recording now and